Daniel Moskos joins us now on Marlins On Deck as we get you ready for Game 2. Jansen Junk, man, what a cool story, obviously, last year and now this year. What did teams miss with Jansen Junk?
Tough to say. It's when you don't come with a ton of prospect status, you can slip through the cracks. But I will say, he was part of a major trade from the Yankees to the Angels. I think it was the trade that got the Yankees Andrew Heaney at the deadline. So, that's not nothing, right? So there's clearly industry value out there. But then you get over to a new organization who maybe doesn't know you. You get a couple opportunities in the big leagues. And if you don't hit the ground running and catch fire, immediately, you can end up going back down and getting lost in the shuffle and becoming kind of one of those, up-down 4A type guys. So then he bounces around a little bit. And then, I take the job. We start talking about how we're going to, build out some of our depth for the coming season. I'm like, if we looked at Jansen Junk at all, he can start, he can pitch in, long relief, do some different things for us, and he's a free agent. Me, Bill, Brandon Mann all have a really good track record with him, having worked with him in the past at the Yankees, Driveline, etc., and it just made a ton of sense. We felt like he fit our mold, commands the ball really well, pretty decent arsenal that we felt like we could even add to a little bit. And, lo and behold, he gets his opportunity last year and caught fire immediately.
It was like watching a freshman come into college. It's all right, he works in the minors, then he backs up Cal Quantrill, then he goes into the starting rotation. Not a lot has changed from, Jansen the person, but the velo on the fastball is up 2 ticks. How do you balance that when you're 30 years old, which is a little bit, I guess, older for baseball, but it looks like he's a different guy?
So I would say let's hold the phone just a little bit. Let's not jump to conclusions.
Why?
Go back and look at his velo trends from last year and see what they were in March, April, May. They didn't start dipping until the workload started getting to a place that he hadn't really handled in the past couple of years. Once he passed that 80-inning threshold, he was coming off the year before where I think he threw 60.
Yeah.
He hadn't really fully started for an extended period of time. And so the velo started to trail off towards the end of the year. It was propped up right around in this similar capacity. He maybe has a half a tick to a tick up, but it's not the same if you look at just the aggregate from last year versus this year. It doesn't really tell the whole story. That being said, we like him a lot better when he's throwing hard. It tends to make the entire arsenal perform a little bit better. The velo kind of spreads out to every pitch, not just the heater. And so, that's something that, we do look into when we're trying to make decisions on how long we want to extend him, et cetera. If the stuff is propped up, we're probably going to have a little longer leash with him than when, the stuff might be just around average or so. A little fun backstory. He's actually the first pitcher in pro ball that I ever worked with. He was at Driveline when I took the job with the Yankees, and the first player I got assigned was Jansen Junk.
How old was he?
Oh, goodness. He was a young pup back then. I was younger back then even. But, goodness,
Are you surprised?
24, 25.
Did you think that this was possible?
No, I'm not, because we did a bunch of things with him right when I got to work with him the first time. We lost the minor league season that year, so we put him through a really extensive velo program. I think in 2019 he averaged right around 92 miles an hour, and in 2021 averaged close to 94. So we started to see him turn himself into a more interesting prospect than who he came in as.
Not an excuse. I'm not asking for excuses. I'm asking you for factors. Factors when pitching in the cold. What could it possibly affect factor-wise, not excuse-wise?
So the ball's going to feel a little bit colder. You're going to feel like you have a little bit less grip. Guys have reported just the balls feel slicker in general. You might see spin rates downtrend a little bit. You're going to see a velo hit usually for most guys. I think it's a really good question, though. I was actually talking with Aaron Lienhardt in the dugout last night. What can we do in terms of what we can put on the pitcher's body to keep the internal temperature of the tissue maybe a little bit warmer and allow them to tap into their top end velo regardless of environment? Because to me, that's essentially what happens is it gets cold, the body is colder, muscles, tendons, they don't become less elastic, and you don't get the best contraction or the best output possible. So if you're approaching it from that lens, what can we do is there a neoprene undershirt that we can put on guys? They keep their forearm, their shoulder like a little bit warmer. I don't know. I definitely have, I've got the brain spinning of the guy who's got the biggest brain in this dugout. So he's usually pretty good at conjuring up some sort of answer. So we'll see what we got.
We'll break. We'll get you out of the count next on the Marlins Radio Network.